Hello and welcome to this special ministerial update with Information Minister Dr. Dana Morris Dixon here on the Jamaica Information Service. Dr. Dixon, thank you so much for joining us. Lots of discussion about the third-party national agreement with the U.S. Firstly, what do you say to Jamaicans now who are upset and concerned about why our government is entering into this agreement now with the U.S.?
I can understand the concern, and especially given how the news broke. It broke with this 10,000 number, and I can see any Jamaican being alarmed when they hear a number like 10,000. So I understand the sentiments, but I say to every Jamaican that as a government, we've always been very transparent. We've always acted in the interest of Jamaica and Jamaicans. And this is just another example of that. And the Third Country Nationals program is one that the US is negotiating with many countries currently, and it has finalized negotiations with many other countries, and it has started to be operational. So I do understand, and that's part of the reason we're having this conversation, is really to answer the questions. Our Deputy Prime Minister, Dr. Chang, would have answered a lot of questions. He had a press release out. He spoke for a long time in Parliament. And now I get to, add a bit more information from my information portfolio in terms of what's really being discussed at Cabinet so that Jamaicans understand what this is.
And even to talk about the what's being discussed, people would want to know as well, why has the government entered into this agreement?
All right, so this is an agreement that is, as I said, being negotiated by the US with many, many different partners. And there are other Caribbean countries that have already signed. And we are a key partner of the US. And we see the US as a key partner of ours. And the US approached the government of Jamaica as it approached other countries about this Third Country Nationals program. So we are a transit point for individuals who would have recently crossed the border into the US and they're being returned home. And so we're a transit point. And it's very small numbers, as would have been in the media, 25 at any one time. And it was really out of that request from the US. And then we entered into negotiations with the United States. And we're finally at the point where we have an MOU, but some of the operational details of it have not been finalized as yet.
Yeah. The Gleaner reported that a cabinet minister initiated discussions with the US about this program, but Dr. Horace Chang, security minister, has said that the US initiated the discussions. Can you explain this apparent discrepancy?
Thank you. I'm glad you've asked that question because it's really a straightforward answer. So the Third Country Nationals program, anyone who looks it up, you'll see that it is in place in many countries and it is a US initiative. So the US would have come to us on that Third Country Nationals program. Now, there's a conflation of that with a discussion that would have happened with Minister Marks in relation to exploring skilled laborers coming to Jamaica. And as you know, we've been looking at nurses and doctors, for example, coming from the Philippines, also looking at Ghana, looking at other countries, Nigeria also. And so there was a conversation at one point about whether or not there was an opportunity around highly skilled persons. Now, that became conflated with TCN. And there was actually a lot of work, I'm told, that had to go into clarifying between the two countries that TCN is completely different from any kind of skilled workers program. And what would have been looked at is how can we maybe get some more skilled workers? And at the same time, there were discussions around how can we get more of our farm workers and or hotel workers that are going to the US, and we know those programs tend to be oversubscribed. Is there an opportunity for Jamaicans to also be working in the US? So it was a more holistic conversation, but at one point it did get conflated with the Third Country Nationals program, and that's where that issue was. But very soon after that cable would have been sent that I see being discussed in the media, very soon after that, there was clarification. And it's really for that reason that when you're doing bilateral negotiations, they tend not to really be public because you have several different iterations of the conversation. So it started with a US overture. And then there was a discussion on something separate, which was on skilled labor. And then they got conflated. It had to be clarified. No. TCN is this, and this is what we're negotiating. We're not having the conversation around that other program at this point. We're just talking about third country nationals. And so that's how the negotiations have proceeded since that clarification was made. And we have moved forward, and we have an MOU that has already been discussed publicly now.
Yeah, I mean, listening to you, there are several issues that are now emerging, and I want to take them one by one.
Sure.
Firstly, Jamaica has sent home Cuban doctors and nurses. How do we then justify taking in these third country nationals?
Remember, we're looking at two different programs, and the Cuba program in terms of medical professionals has been a success for Jamaica, and I don't think anyone can dispute that. And so the program ended because of issues in relation to its conformity to our labor laws. We would love to have Cuban doctors and nurses back in Jamaica and in significant numbers. And that is something that the government is still actively pursuing. So that's a different program where persons are coming here for a period of time and working here and contributing big time to our country. And that's, again, something that we want to continue on the Cuba side. And we're also looking at other countries too on that. But a third country nationals program is not that. A third country nationals program is where we have an agreement with the US that individuals who are being returned to their country transit through Jamaica on a short-term basis. So this is not an employment long-term kind of program like the Cuban doctors program would be.
And speaking about that, you can leave from the US and go virtually anywhere in the world. Why is Jamaica needed as a transit country?
There are many countries that have signed these agreements. And when you look at it, there are many in the Caribbean, many in Latin America. The US does use them as transit points to the other countries as they're on their way out. And that's just the nature of the program as the US has defined it. And they came to us on that basis, as they did all the other countries. And we have gone into negotiations on what we can handle as a country, which is a very small number, which is 25. And what is beautiful about our program is that we have noted in the MOU that if those who stay not continuing in transit ever goes above 10, the program ends.
And speaking about the MOU, Dr. Chang has said the MOU would be made public. Is that still the case? And if so, when?
Yes, the MOU will be made public. I expect that within a matter of days, if it's not already public, that it will be made public. The good thing is everything that was in the release and in Dr. Chang's statement basically tells you everything that's in the MOU. There's no real new information, but it will be out there for the public to see for themselves what has been agreed. We've not ironed out all of the operational details. So there's some questions like where are they going to be housed that are still being worked out and still being negotiated. So we've always planned that once we were final and we had all of the details of the arrangement, that this was going to be made public.
Jamaicans have been hearing different numbers in terms of how many persons could be housed here in Jamaica under this program. Could you clarify that for us?
Sure. Under this program, it is just up to 25, and that can be up to twice per month. So that is the number, 25 at a time, twice in the month. And that is for individuals in transit to another country.
Minister, there has also been concern about whether people with criminal antecedents will be a part of this TCN agreement to be sent to Jamaica. Can you respond to that?
Thank you for that question, because I heard a lot of people talking about that one. We've been very clear in our MOU and in our discussions that individuals who have a criminal background, criminal antecedents, will not be allowed to come through Jamaica, to transit through Jamaica. So that is very clear, and that has been clear from the beginning of the negotiations.
And finally, what happens now?
Well, as I said, we've not finalized negotiations. So there's an MOU that has very squarely in it that it is 25 at a time. If at any point more than 10 are applying for asylum. And in Jamaica, we respect international law and we have a process for those who may want to seek asylum. But we have written in our agreement that if we ever get to 10, that the program ends. Nobody else can be sent to Jamaica. And it also has, in terms of who covers the costs, it also has that the International Organization for Migration will be the one that will be monitoring and making sure everything is okay and that we are abiding by international law for the time that these individuals are transiting through Jamaica. Questions such as housing, again, we need to finalize those details. And so there are a few more operational things to finalize. We will release the MOU, but I say to Jamaica, there are still some areas that we're ironing out. And as soon as those are known, we will come back and tell you.
And can you give a timeline for the MOU when it will be released, do you think?
I expect it within another few days.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Minister, we know the situation is fluid and developing, but as soon as more information becomes available, we'll come back to you for another update.
And as always, I am here to answer the questions.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us. This has been a special ministerial update from Information Minister Dr. Dana Morris-Dickson. Thank you so much for watching on behalf of the entire JIS production team. Pleasant viewing.